Chris Level here with another edition of Patriot Talk with Barry Newton, a special guest. He coaches some football, but we're not going to talk a lot of football today. We're going to talk powerlifting, the bench, the squat, the deadlift. Going to educate you, get to hear from Coach Newton on kind of who's doing this for him and how he got into this and all these things right there. So Colton Coons behind the camera taking care of us as always. But first of all, welcome to the show, Coach Newton. Tech grad, West Texan. I mean, he's just kind of one of us, man.
Absolutely.
Great dude. First, okay, let's catch everybody up. What made Liberty High School just such a good fit for you, coming from Sundown and all those things?
You know, that's, Chris, honestly, it was just a deal. I've had an opportunity before to start a school from scratch and a program from scratch a couple of different times in my career, and the timing didn't work out, you know,
okay.
So that was an attractive thing because I've always just thought it'd be cool to just start it from the ground up and make everything that way.
Yeah.
And then when Joe Sexton got hired as the coordinator and head football coach, that really perked my interest. I've known Coach Sexton a long time. He actually coached in my hometown. He actually coached my sister in basketball. So
probably poorly, but we're, we won't hold that against.
Yeah, we'll
Joe.
hold that against him. But yeah, so I've known him a while, and it was just something kind of intriguing. And Sundown's a great place. I was there 14 years, and it was just one of those things. I felt like it was just time to make a change, and so this is just kind of a way to kind of elevate things a little bit, go to a bigger school, and just start a program from scratch. So I've always, in my coaching stops, I've been in the district with Lubbock Cooper before, the old high school, and competed against those guys, and so I've always had a lot of respect for this district. It's just something I want to be a part of, and so it worked out great for me and my wife both. She teaches at kindergarten at Cooper East, so it's just been a blessing for both of us. So, I think a lot of things kind of lined up for you, and sometimes God's good to you, and so It's been a heck of a blessing.
And and I always say this about Joe, but it's like I don't know anybody out there that doesn't like the guy because of who he is.
Fantastic.
And if you don't like him, that's probably more of an issue with you, not
exactly.
him.
Absolutely.
But, that's well said. And a compliment to you too, because I've kind of watched you show up here and then kind of ingrain yourself into the new school and all that. Nobody out there appreciates where they are more than you do, and I it's genuine, it's pure. I just am a big fan of that. Watching you on the football, now what you're doing with powerlifting, but just in general. There's a joy there, and watching you.
I appreciate it. I feel like coaching's a calling, and I felt like it's something my whole life I've wanted to do. My dad coached when I was a kid, and then, my mom kept a baby book. When I was 3 and 4, I wanted to be a firefighter, but then when I was 5, I told her I wanted to coach, and it's been that way ever since. I have no idea what I would do if I didn't do this. I just love kids, love the ability to, I had some great coaches that raised me, but I had great parents, and that's kind of the same, kind of my way to give back to them is just to continue that legacy with kids and relationships. So, and I believe you just got to pour yourself all into something. When you go, you got to just pour it all in and give everything you can of yourself to the kids, to the people, and make it something special.
Yeah, being around young people, man, because say it all the time, but coaches, boys, girls, doesn't really matter, have more impact on young people than really anybody else.
Absolutely.
They're around them more
Absolutely.
than parents and friends and all that. And so, glad to have you in that spot. Let's talk football a little bit, too. This was a unique, before we get to the powerlifting and the reason why we have you here, but football was a unique situation because it's new. Mm-hmm. It's a JV schedule. You're not really sure what you've got, numbers and all that, but you were calling plays, mm-hmm. and you're kind of the offensive coordinator and offensive line guy too. But kind of take me through the dynamic there with a brand new school and just kind of, okay, here we go. And then it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, it's – you talk about coming into a new place and you think, there's that excitement. There's also that little bit of anxiety, like, what have we got ourselves into a little bit? But, the thing I would say from day one I figured out real quick is we had great kids, and they were very respectful, very coachable, and they were very hungry. They wanted to start a legacy and start something great. And, but yeah, early on it's like, offensively, it's like what fits our kids, and it's so, there's a little, adapting, to just what you're trying to fit to the kids, make sure it's the right thing for them. to be successful. But there was some challenges. I think back to all the construction and the moving parts of football, and I told guys we started off at one of the middle schools. I said it's just like NFL training camp, I guess. We're we just practice somewhere else, and then we're gonna pack up and move.
They're like the Junction Boys,
yes,
just to date myself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then like I say, just something in our whole program. This is powerlifting as well as football. Is I feel like I'm a better coach today than I was a year ago because you have no older players. Everybody's young. Everybody's we had mostly freshmen, a handful of sophomores, and so there's nobody to go to and say, hey, show those guys this, or hey, we're going to do this drill, and your seniors jump up in line and show the drill, and then everybody kind of follows suit. I feel like I'm a better coach because I had to break it down and teach it in the small, fine details again, just to get it established, and then kind of the same thing for the whole scheme of the offense. Just it's basically starting at scratch, and you're not only teaching it to the kids but also to our staff. So it was a lot of fun. Again, I felt like it made me better. Just things that for when you do something for years, you kind of get in that rut. And you don't realize that you're just always blessed to have older kids do it. Now all of a sudden, I got to make sure we all understand we're all on the same page. So it's pretty cool. But,
and obviously it gets really. It gets real here
yes, sir, absolutely.
In this fall
yes.
and all those things in a new district moving up to 4A and all those kinds of things. But, it's fun to watch you kind of install some of that some of that QB run game. And
and it's not so much just really the scheme, but it's also just the culture of the program, the culture of the I get asked a lot about, coaching the O-line. I just believe that's where football's won. It's won on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And so it was important to me. I told Joe, I said, I want to establish with those guys up front a mentality of, when it's in the fourth quarter and things are tough, I want those guys saying, hey, coach, just go behind us. We got it, and that's the kind of mentality you want. And if you can get that established, all those other parts kind of fit. So, just that the culture of the offense, the toughness, the physicality part of it, you want to get that established as well as just your scheme. So.
Yeah.
So been a lot of fun.
It's a trenches game.
Yes, sir.
It just always
It
never.
Yep.
At whatever level you're playing at, it's a trenches game. Yeah, like the QB, the receivers, the DBs, they all want the flash, but no, it's you're right. Most of the time, it's won or lost up front. Okay, so that's what you did in the fall, but in the spring, you kind of transition over into powerlifting. Okay, you've done this for a while. You've been like kind of, I don't know, head of the organization and all. I mean, powerlifting. How did you get introduced to this world?
So, kind of a long story, but I can keep it short. It's when I was doing my student teaching. I did my student teaching in Morton, where I grew up. And we had a coach come in, Bruce Lacefield, and he wanted to start powerlifting, and I'd never even heard of it. And so, me and another girl were doing our student teaching, and he showed us the ropes. And we basically started a program from scratch.
How many years ago was this?
This would have been in 98, 99.
Okay, so you're that's 20.
And I've been in powerlifting for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And I loved the weight room as a kid. It was something that I had some coaches in my high school, like this is something you can always do to make yourself better. And so I just loved the weight room. So then when it was ability to use the weight room and then still compete, I was all in on it. And so learned that. My first coaching stop in Brownfield, they did not have it. And we got a new coach come in, and first thing he said was, I want to start powerlifting. He goes, anybody here in this office had any experience? And I kind of look around the room and I kind of raised my hand like, well, I've done it. And he goes, okay, you're the powerlifting coach. And so we started it from scratch, which is very similar to what we did here. And it was, our first year we had about 12, 13 kids. And then, when I left, I was in Brownfield 8 years. When I left, we had about 30 lifting. Then I went to Levelland, and it was the same situation as far as, it was kind of a little more established. But then went to Sundown, I had 5 kids. And when I left, we were lifting about 45 to 50 girls and boys. So,
because this is a girl and boy sport. Yeah.
Yes. And so kind of had this experience starting them from scratch, which is good and bad. You get to do it your way, but it's also, again, to kind of go back to football, you got no older kids to show the ropes, so you're teaching everything. But yeah, as far as the association, I started off when I was in Brownfield. a guy by the name of Sonny Gonzalez used to coach here at Cooper. He nominated me one year to be the regional director, and I was just humbled to be nominated. There's about 3 or 4 of us nominated, and we step outside and they vote and they come back in and say, "Congratulations, Coach Newton, you're the new regional director." And very humbling just to be elected by your peers. And so I started serving. This is actually my 20th year as a regional director. Along that time, I was served as the president, which is another.
And it's like it's the Texas High School Powerlifters Association.
And so the president thing, you're elected by the board of directors. So it's guys from all over the state. And so it's, very humbling that nobody in Region 1 had ever been a president. And so I was the first and still the first. But just tried to bring some, to let people realize that West Texas, we got great kids and they work really hard. And, been blessed to be a part of that association. A lot of great friendships, relationships there with people. And so I've enjoyed that a lot. This will actually be my last year as the director since we're moving up to 4A. We'll be Division II. And I'm actually now the state secretary. So I'll continue in that role. Okay. But it's been a lot of fun. Been very humble. I've built so many great relationships with coaches and kids and parents, and just hosting regional meets and hosting the state meet. It's a lot of fun, but a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And so there's a lot of aspects of it I'm going to miss because, it's 20 years as you do something. It's just kind of ingrained in you just to do it. But I'm excited, too, to be able to step back a little bit, and I'll still serve it again as secretary, which will be cool. But so, yeah, it's I don't know, to be a guy that never, we didn't have powerlifting when I was in high school, so just started off from scratch, and then here we are. So
and for people watching and they hear powerlifting, obviously you understand that there's some weightlifting and obviously a lot of weight maybe with the use of the word power. But what is it? What's the sport? Like in layman's terms, I know what it is, but I want you to explain it like in its pure simplest form. Here's what we're here's how you compete.
So, I've always used it as an extension of our off-season program. It's basically a way for our kids to get in the weight room and get stronger, but also to compete, to go to competition. And so,
where there's a winner and a loser.
Yes. Yeah. And, it's always been to me, that's the motivator. Sometimes going after school and spending time in the weight room when nobody's around is a little tough. When you're young kids, like I could be doing this or that. But this gives them something to actually, go compete, and you're trying to win, as you said. And, we have 12 weight classes. So, kids actually lift with people that are their same body weight. And as you said, it's squat, bench, and deadlift. You get 3 attempts at each one of those. And then at the end of the day, you add up your best of those 3, and that's your total.
And your total in your weight class.
In your weight class. And, if you're obviously the top guy, you're first, and so so, again, it's a big motivator, and it's key. I've had, in my time, I've been blessed to have a lot of success with, we won 2 state championships in Sundown. I've had several individual state champions, but those kids also were, the first year we won at Sundown, we had 6 boys at the state meet. We won our first team state championship. Well, 3 of those guys ran on the sprint relay in Austin later that spring. I've had a girl that same year win it that ran in Austin in 2 events. So I always have pushed our kids to understand that it's going to make you a better athlete in all your sports. And obviously a lot of things about weightlifting people, it's the injury prevention side of it is huge. But yeah, it's just, it's not what, it's not bodybuilding. It's not what some people think. But if you ever go, like this year at Liberty having all new kids.
Yeah, how many kids do you have on the team?
So I had 12 kids, 12 boys. None of them had ever been to a meet and I've never seen it. And, after the first meet was over, I think the parents were more fired up than the kids were because they were like, this is so cool. Because, it's instant gratification when you go to, and this isn't just I do it one time. It's a max effort lift. And so, if you do something and, I talk a lot about PRs, personal records, and, those kids, they go up and it's a grind and a strain, but they come off with that smile on their face like, I just did something I haven't done yet. That's the name of this deal, And so it's kind of one of those. It's powerlifting is always kind of doesn't get a lot of notoriety because most people aren't going to go to a powerlifting meet and sit for 5 or 6 hours unless you have someone there that you're paying attention to. I mean, it's a long thing. It's kind of like a track meet. It's just scattered out, but I always tell kids, if you'll just go to one meet with me, you'll be hooked. And that's these guys out here. There's that apprehension, but the first meet they were all in. It's like when's the next one? When's the next one? So, but yeah, it's been great. You know, a lot of kids can compete in powerlifting that can't compete in other sports just from a size standpoint. You know, like in our lightest weight class is 114 pounds. So, you know, I had a kid one time weigh 90 pounds, and you know, just from a physical standpoint, it was hard for him to do a lot of other sports just from the physicality part of football or basketball. But he came out for powerlifting, and you know, he went to regionals 3 years in a row. You know, just because he's competing against guys his size.
Same size, yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's a like I say, it's a different deal. But if you, it's also the things for kids is cool. You know, the goals and things like that's what's really makes it special.
Yeah, being the best version of yourself.
Absolutely.
How does one train for like the max lift? Because, you know, there's a million ways to get into a weight room and train.
Yep.
You know, lightweight, high rep. There's all kinds of things. You know, there's a cardio aspect to it and just being in shape in general. But how does one train for, I need to lift the most weight, pick up the most?
That's the challenging part. Just because you're balancing, you know, like for us, you know, we got, you know, most of my kids are in off season, so they're getting a lift during our athletic period in the morning, but then they'll also come after school with me and we're getting another lift. So it's balancing out, you know, not over training certain things. But, you know, really for the max effort stuff, it's, you know, I always refer to our guys, it's like a mountaintop. You know, you just got to slowly work your way up the mountain. And then obviously the top is like meet day. You want to be at your best. But yeah, it's a lot of, you know, for powerlifting is a lot of, you know, we call them singles and doubles, lots of sets of one, sets of two. And so, you know, you train heavy, but yet there's also days that, you know, we do a lot of volume just to balance the body out and the training. So, and, you know, too, like these guys I had this year being mostly freshmen, you know, I had 9 freshmen, 3 sophomores. You know, a lot of them, too, were still just building a foundation. So there's a lot of things those guys did not do this year, training-wise, they'll do in the future just as they get a better foundation underneath them. And so, you know, it'll grow for them. Obviously, just like the numbers and, you know, what you're going to squat and what you deadlift, that number is going to grow as you get stronger. But again, the training stuff will change a little bit, too. But so yeah,
is this like you know? Because I just have these visions of. I mean, do we have like Metallica blaring in the weight room?
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah,
you know, because you kind of have to be like,
you know, strength conditioning guys. They're powerlifting guys. They're wired a little different at times. You know, it's you know, there's a switch you flip on the side when it's time to go. And
something's a bit off. So you're very normal compared to most like lifting and strength coaches that I'm, you know, like, but some of them are just kind of like, man, I'm not sure he's all.
You know, and it's funny. I have guys ask me this. We talked about this. Coach Q does our strength conditioning stuff, and great coach. And
and he's a bit off.
Yeah, and we
like he, you know,
we had,
lovingly say that, right, Q.
We had some conversation about a week ago about some stuff, and I told him, I said, when I was younger, I was you. I was that jump up and down. I would leave workout pouring sweat, and I said, but what really transitioned for me, I said, it's not the fact that I'm older. I said, but I realized that sometimes I was so amped up, I didn't teach. And I said, you still got to be teaching. You got to constantly be teaching technique. You got to constantly be teaching their mind and training and understanding. So I said, I kind of toned it down because I realized I got to quit being such a maniac in here and actually start teaching these guys the proper way to lift and the proper mindset for a max lift. Because it's not something that, you know, if I'm going to jump on a bar and do a set of 10, I don't really have to, you know, I don't have to, okay, I got 10 right here. But if I'm going to jump under a bar and it's the most I've ever done for one rep, I mean, the mental side of it is just as big as the physical. So, yeah, it's I toned that down years ago, again, just mainly just to teach. Now I can still ramp it up, though.
Okay, so anybody you want to mention that's competing over at Liberty that has a chance, maybe, because we've got regional meet coming up and then the state meet coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we you know, I'm really excited. I wasn't real sure this first year.
Oh, it's
you
like
know, as you said in football, the unknown. But we do have one young man that qualified for regionals, Justice Batoni. So he'll lift on Saturday. And the regional meet, and you know, it's been a big deal for him, you know, to be, you know, I've been telling him, I said, you're the first ever regional qualifier, and so been cool for him. It's given him a lot of confidence, which is another part of powerlifting, that confidence, and that helps a lot of that too. But it's been good for him, so I'm excited for him to just get to go compete. And it's powerlifting's different in this sense. We don't really split up like JV and varsity. You're essentially competing with everybody that's in the region, and it doesn't matter the classification. So, we don't say, well, this is our JV. So our freshmen have been competing with seniors that have been doing this for 4 years. And so, there's just a gap there in the training that we're not there yet. And I tell them that all the time, guys, we will get there. It's just, you have to be patient. I said, if weightlifting was easy, people go work out one time and, they'd be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's like water in a bamboo plant.
Yes. It's
and
just
then one day
by
boom.
day. Yep.
Yeah. No days off.
Yeah, I'm excited for Justice. It's going to be good for him, good for us. And I'm glad to have somebody get to regionals that first year. That kind of establishes the program and gets it going. So.
And like it's the rules are fascinating because it's like you can't like no slapping, okay? I mean, which I'm like, what do you mean? I'll let you explain it. But like you've got these special bench shirts, which I think most people are like, what are you talking about? But yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of wrapping on wrists and knees, and there's certain things that are allowed and not allowed. But.
So some of the equipment, originally in the beginning of the association was basically designed just to support. To support the joints, the knees, the wrists, things like that. And the equipment's grown tremendously since I first started because, used to it was kind of everybody had the same thing. And now it's not really my favorite part of the sport anymore. It's kind of an arms race, It's like who can get the best. And I'm like, I miss the days of just go in the weight room and train.
Mano.
And so, but the aspect of powerlifting is different is you are judged. There are 3 judges at every platform. So they're judging basically, this is very strict. For example, squat, bench, any of the lifts. For example, if your foot moves, if your hand moves on the bar, that's what you call that's a red light. So if a judge sees that, he's going to red flag that. So if you get two red lights, that particular lift wouldn't count. So it's very strict. There's a lot of just the details of it. So bench press is an example. It's not come down, touch your chest, and go back up. It's you bring the bar to the chest, you pause it. When the bar is completely motionless, then the judge gives you the command to press. So there's a ton of discipline in it.
Because we've all been in the weight room before where guys are lifting their rear end up and they're just like bouncing it and like, man, I can. I'm all, I get lifted.
I tell our guys all the time, some of these kids go on the weekends, they got gym memberships, and I said, whatever you see those old guys in there doing, that's not what this is. Don't do it.
Don't do what that guy's doing. I think it's this is just one of those things that's been fun to watch because I felt like this podcast was as much education as anything because I just don't think the general person understands. Like when we've talked wrestling in here and now powerlifting and some different things, it's just like the general walking around knowledge is not there for that particular sport, and it does provide some things other than just that sport. But it's been fun to kind of watch this. Well, I hope he does well.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, he's excited, and I'm excited for him. So it'll be fun to watch him compete.
And I guess you've got off season coming up or the summer coming up for football season coming up.
Yeah,
and y'all are doing a lot of planning and talking.
Yeah, we've been.
Got a schedule out.
It's hard to believe it's already March.
I know. Because
it's the year's going by
fast. You're going to look up, and it's
Yes.
going to be August
Yes,
5th,
sir.
I think, is the first day
Yes.
to practice and all that stuff. Well, Coach, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I appreciate you doing this for us.
Chris, I appreciate it. And,
absolutely.
And I just appreciate what you guys do for kids. And
you too, man.
Love to come talk about our kids any chance I can. So I appreciate it.
There he is, one of the best Patriots over there at Liberty High School, Barry Newton. So with that, that's another edition of Patriot Talk. We will talk to you next time.